We've been talking about it. Main Street has been downright outraged by what's been happening on Wall Street and in Washington. Members of the House had their emails flooded by angry constituents, and we're talking about volumes of 3 to 4 times above normal. Meantime, the Chicago Tribune was swamped with readers' fury. The editor there says they got more letters than at any time since 9/11. One of them saying bankers should be, quote, tarred and feathered.
But the truth of the matter is they voted on principle. They believe that this vote would have turned the country into almost a socialist America, their words, and they didn't want to participate in that. Now the question is, okay, but is it worth the cost because of what we've come to?
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer is not sugarcoating it. Listen.
Great Depression, too. It's back on the table.
A good friend of ours, Democratic Congressman James Clyburn, he's a majority whip. He voted for this bill. Congressman, Congressman.
Help us out.
Help us out. Congressman, let's make a little deal here.
Is going on?
You get us 5 Democrats to vote for this, quote, crap sandwich, in the words of John Boehner, and we'll get McCain to get 5 Republicans, and then the markets will rebound.
Yeah, we have them on in an hour.
Can we do that?
Well, look, I was asked to produce 118 votes. I produced 140. They were asked to produce 100 votes. They produced 65. So where do we stop this? The fact of the matter is we got together, we decided that each one of us needed to produce half of our caucuses, and they failed.
Okay, well, we are where we are right now. The market's 777 points down.
Right.
Since you were so great of a man, I'm sure you can find us 5 more
Just 5.
votes.
Just 5, sir.
All you've got to do is put the bankruptcy provisions back in there, and the entire Congressional Black Caucus would vote for it. That's all they ever ask for. If businesses can use the bankruptcy laws, let's say to these people, small businesses, individuals, you are going to be protected with our bankruptcy laws, with your foreclosures and other things. And they refuse to put the bankruptcy provisions in the law. That's why the Congressional Black Caucus had problems with this bill.
Can you not find 5 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, just 5 in safe districts to vote for this thing?
I could find 15 or 20. All you've got to do, put bankruptcy provisions in the law, and you got it.
Well, and I'm sure Republicans will want to put in cuts in the capital gains tax. I mean, we can't throw ornaments on this Christmas tree.
That's what you talk about negotiations. We gave up something on our side. They gave up something on their side, and we went beyond our goal from 118 to 140. They fell 35 short of their goals.
If they didn't know they had if the Republicans had told them they don't have the votes, would you have pulled the bill? I mean,
why was it? That's the next question. Why was this bill put on the floor when you guys didn't know whether it was going to pass or not?
Look, I talked to Roy Blunt about 2 hours before the vote, and I asked him where he was. He told me he was short of his 100. He told me he thought he was somewhere in the high 70s or low 80s. I said, okay, Roy, if that's where you are, then we can go to the floor, because I think I got a cushion for you. And I did have the cushion for him. He just didn't get to the high 70s or the low 80s as he said he could.
So
are you
that's
saying
the inside baseball there?
Are you saying now that it's the Republicans that are going to have to find the other 10 votes? Or are you saying we're going to scrap this whole thing, throw in the bankruptcy provisions, and have the Democrats carry it over the finish line?
Put it in the bankruptcy provisions, and the Democrats will be there to deliver this.
Congressman, is that what you're going to do, or that's what you'd like to do?
No, that's what we would like to do. The White House is, remember, we're responding to President Bush. He could put that in before he leaves the White House. They have been fighting to keep it out.
Okay.
That's all we're asking them to do.
Help me out here, too, Congressman. The markets collapsed 777 points, and Congress takes a 2-day recess. Why?
Because of the Jewish holidays. We respect that. It's not just about religion. It's about family.
You respect Christian holidays?
We respect the Jewish holidays. I'm sorry?
I mean, you respect Christian holidays? I worked on Good Friday. That's every bit as important to me and other Christians as Jewish holidays are to Jews. Here's the President of the United States trying again.
Yesterday, the House of Representatives voted on a financial rescue plan that had been negotiated by congressional leaders of both parties in my administration. Unfortunately, the measure was defeated by a narrow margin. I'm disappointed by the outcome, but I assure our citizens and citizens around the world that this is not the end of the legislative process. Producing legislation is complicated and it can be contentious. It matters little what a path a bill takes to become law. What matters is that we get a law. We're at a critical moment for our economy, and we need legislation that decisively addresses the troubled assets now clogging the financial system, helps lenders resume the flow of credit to consumers and businesses, and allows the American economy to get moving again. I recognize this is a difficult vote for members of Congress. Many of them don't like the fact that our economy has reached this point, and I understand that. But the reality is that we're in an urgent situation, and the consequences will grow worse each day if we do not act. The dramatic drop in the stock market that we saw yesterday will have a direct impact on the retirement accounts, pension funds, and personal savings of millions of our citizens. And if our nation continues on this course, the economic damage will be painful and lasting. I know many Americans are especially worried about the cost of the legislation. The bill the House considered yesterday commits up to $700 billion taxpayer dollars to purchase troubled assets from banks and other financial institutions. That, no question, is a large amount of money. We're also dealing with a large problem. But to put that in perspective, the drop in the stock market yesterday represented more than $1 trillion in losses. Furthermore, both the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office and the Office of Management and Budget expect that the legislation considered would ultimately cost the taxpayer far less than the $700 billion, because the government would be purchasing troubled assets and selling them once the market recovers. It is likely that many of the assets would go up in value over time. Ultimately, we expect that much, if not all, of the tax dollars we invest will be paid back. As much as we might wish the situation were different, our country is not facing a choice between government action and the smooth functioning of the free market. We're facing a choice between action and the real prospect of economic hardship for millions of Americans, and for the financial security of every American. Congress must act. My administration will continue to work closely with leaders of both parties on Capitol Hill. I appreciate their determined efforts. While Congress is out today for the Jewish holiday, my administration will be talking to congressional leaders today about how we can move legislation forward when members begin returning to the Capitol tomorrow. Our economy is depending on decisive action from the government. The sooner we address the problem, the sooner we can get back on the path of growth and job creation. This is what elected leaders owe the American people, and I'm confident we'll deliver. Thank you.
That's the President of the United States. Let's bring in our panel. John Heilman, will that comfort the markets this morning?
I don't think that comforts anybody.
I'm not comforted.
I don't think that comforts the markets, and I don't think that moves a single vote. I mean, I say this with due respect and even with some sympathy for the man. That, to me, was the picture of a beaten dog. I mean, that was a picture of presidential impotence right there. I thought he looked terrible, like his bell had been rung. He looked drawn to me and like a beaten figure. That was not a picture of either strength or reassurance. Does anybody disagree with that?
Peggy Noonan, this president does not have a good poker face. Well, I'm being very serious here. You need a poker face. You know what? When cities are in flames, that's when a president talks about the greatness of America and how bright our future is. But this is a president that did not hide his shock on 9/11 in the early hours after the attacks, and it didn't look like he was hiding it very well there, did it?
No, it strikes me lately when the president talks about the economic crisis that he seems like a commentator upon the crisis as opposed to the leader in the crisis.
So well put.
There is a sense that he is watching it and saying, we must do something, as opposed to we will do something. The president, I think, with his poll numbers, with his problems on the Hill, with his problems in his own party, that he is not the person to do the leading. But there doesn't seem to be a person who is the right person to do the leading.